In the first episode, I thought he was fine, just seemed giddy about the kiss. But in this episode, he was just starting to come off pretty poorly. I can't tell if it's just editing is just trying to make him seem like he's obnoxious, or maybe he is obnoxious.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie, she's Kelly, and we're here to find love. We're in Bachelorette Season 20, Episode 2, and we're back again this week and every week to recap Charity season. For those of you who don't know us, hi, we're two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially The Bachelorette. So if you're into this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation.
First of all, welcome back, Julie. We're so happy to have you back. So in episode 2, we had a pretty classic format of 3 dates. We had one one-on-one date, 2 group dates, but the last group date turned into a one-on-one date. So we'll just start at the top. We started with the one-on-one date first, which was with Aaron B, which Aaron B is a character who I am still pretty ambivalent or uneven about. I'm just not sure how I feel about him. Okay, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts, Julie, because since the first episode, I've just been a little bit unsure about him. Something about him to me feels a little bit inauthentic or maybe like a little like manufactured to me. And I still felt that way on this date. They like visited the Hollywood sign. They like sat on like an old vintage car and like looked at the sign and went to like an old Hollywood style evening date. It was very cute and romantic. I don't know. I thought that they were cute together, but it just felt a little bit forced to me. What did you think about it, Julie?
Yeah, he definitely is not doing himself any favors of like the coin toss thing. You can tell that he thought about that before he even got in the plane to meet Charity. And that's an element of kind of like, you're right, he is forcing it, or he's trying to create magical moments, which is so funny because by the very nature of the show, magical moments are always being manufactured. Like you always have this like really big element of fanfare. And so he doesn't need to kind of like white knuckle his way through it. I do like parts of his personality, at least what he's shown so far. Like I really liked when they had their date and he was kind of speaking about therapy. It's great that it's being so normalized now, and I love that he was able to own up to really crappy toxic behavior he did in the past.
I was in a 4-year relationship during college while I was playing football, and you know, I wasn't the best boyfriend at all. I struggled with active listening. I struggled with communication, and it's something that I messed up. You know, with that being said, I did want to go get better, so I did check into therapy. It was hard. I had a lot of pride. Like, you know, there's a lot of pride with me, but
I think that was a really good showing of accountability, and I think it's even more attractive to someone like Charity, who is a therapist and who values this kind of like reflection in her partners. So I thought that was really cool, and I think that was a cool moment for like the Bachelor audience to kind of see that just because you used to exhibit toxic traits or you were not like the greatest partner in the past, that doesn't define you for the rest of your life. You can still receive love, you can still be on the path to love, and people can still root for you in your journey. That's kind of what Aaron B represents to me, but who he is as a person, who he is as like Charity's match is very much still up in the air for me.
Yeah, I agree that I loved the evening portion where he opened up about that, his experience with therapy, and about his experience kind of just being a bad partner to his, I think he was talking about like his like high school girlfriend or college girlfriend, something like that. He was talking about how he wasn't like a great listener and how he wasn't great at communicating. And so that's what prompted him to go to therapy. I really, really like that element of being able to acknowledge how he was contributing to the problems in that relationship. So that was something that I really, really liked about him, and I appreciated him. You know, it's just so common on this show. People often come on and are like, my ex was so horrible. I've been through so many bad relationships. And like, it's less common for someone to come in and be like, I kind of sucked in my past relationships and I'm trying to work on that. So I did actually really appreciate that he brought that up and came in with that angle and that kind of ownership of his own, you know, areas for growth. I think that's something that all of us can really take a lesson from, and is a really good quality to try to bring into all of our interactions. We don't have anything to prove. We don't need to be like, I am 100% the perfect partner, because no one is. None of us are. We all have things to work on. And I appreciated that Aaron B is not, even though he actually said, he's like, I have a lot of pride, and it was like hard for me to go to therapy, and that was like something that I struggled with. Like, he talked about that, and yet I did appreciate that he was still like open to talking about, at the same time, like, I did suck, and so I did need to, like, that to me is the true mark of confidence, just being able to acknowledge your like missteps. I think that's a true mark of like, I'm not afraid of my mistakes, or like my mistakes don't define me, and I understand that I am inherently worthy anyway, and I'm working on improving in XYZ areas. So I actually did really appreciate that about him. I think you're right. Okay, now that you said that, I guess now maybe I am like a little warmer on him.
Have I convinced you?
Maybe a little bit. Okay, let me tell you the thing that made me skeptical about him. In the first episode, it did, like, I felt like he was just a little bit gimmicky, or like he was, the coin flip, the song, like playing the piano for her, like those parts felt a little bit, I don't know, it just felt like he was just trying to do things to seem cool and suave, and so I wasn't super into him. And it wasn't that I thought he was a bad guy, I just felt like I didn't get a good sense of his personality, other than I am the kind of guy who does things to be liked, and I am the kind of guy who does things that I think will make people like me. That's the only thing I really got out of him from that first date. And even in the beginning portion of this one-on-one date, when they were at the Hollywood sign and driving in the car, those portions of it, I did just get a sense of, he just kept, everything that came out of his mouth was just like, I'm positive, I'm saying the thing that I think is gonna make you feel like I'm cool. Like, it just felt like he kept saying things that were, it was like fluff. Everything he said felt like fluff to me, and it was all like fluffy things intended to make him seem likable. And it's funny, like, people do that, of course, so people will like them, but to me it always just comes off as like ingenuine and makes me like them less, because I just feel like I'm not seeing their true personality when people are trying so hard to be like a certain persona. And so for Aaron B, currently right now, I still feel like I don't have a sense of what he's really like, because I just feel like all we're really getting from him is what he thinks people want to see from him. And it makes me wonder if he is in touch with himself in a authentic way. Like, it sounds like he's worked through some of his relationship problems in therapy, but I wonder if, like, to me it felt like watching their date, it felt so high school to me. Like, the beginning part of it, the evening part, I agree with you, I liked it a lot, but the beginning part of it felt very high school, in the sense of like just watching two people just trying to say the right thing. And I don't know, I just kept thinking, like, Aaron, you're 30. You don't need to, like, you can have your own personality now. You don't just have to say all the right things to be, like, popular. You can just do whatever you want. You can just be yourself. And I feel like that's the thing that I'm wanting to see more of from Aaron B. But anyways, it's not that I dislike him. I just feel, I just want to see more of who he really is. That was my main read on him so far.
And that's a very valid take, because I do agree that Aaron, to me, feels really practiced. Like, he doesn't...
Yes.
He's not the most vulnerable person. And I think everything he's disclosing is intentionally scaffolding him in a really particular light. He's like, I want to be seen as someone that's working on myself. Let me share something from my past that is like trauma dumping, but not too much. Like, he's kind of being discerning about what he's putting on the table for charity, to kind of like be able to judge him, understand him, evaluate him by. That's very common in the beginning of dating, when you are presenting a version of yourself. It's just very interesting to me, because I think Charity is a person that really embraces someone being a little bit like, I don't, like a way of saying, kind of like Brayden. Like, the way that Brayden is doing it is a little bit like like his enthusiasm comes across as being a little bit crass at times, but she likes how he's just so in his emotions as he's displaying it.
Yeah,
Aaron
you're
B
right.
doesn't have that at all. Like, he's
That's
very
yes.
in his body. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really well said. It's a good comparison. Like, even for all the things we don't like about Brayden, and we'll get to him in a second, at least Brayden, you can tell he is just really, he's just, whatever he's thinking, he's spitting it out. Like, it is very
Yes.
unfiltered in a way that I think Aaron B is much more like, I am saying the thing that I've seen other popular kids in high school, like, this is what popular people say, and I will say it too. And so it feels, that's what I mean when I say, like, it feels like very high school to me, but I completely agree with you that it is common in the beginning parts of dating, but it's not something that, especially for someone like Charity, it's not something that is gonna help someone really get to know you and really fall for you, because, you know, people are attracted to vulnerability, and that's the thing. It's like, that's the part that Charity really clung to on their date, was she really liked the part where he started kind of talking about some of the things in his past that, like, were less perfect, because people kind of like seeing some of those imperfections, right? People resonate with that stuff. That's the stuff that people are more likely to relate to. And so putting on kind of that, like, perfect, like, cookie cutter front, I think tends to do us more of a disservice. Maybe it'll make you, you know, socially popular in a group setting, but in terms of, like, a one-on-one and trying to get someone to really get to know you, I think it's almost like self-sabotaging in a certain way. But even as I say that, I mean, he got such a front-runner treatment, right? Aaron B, like, he was really given quite a positive edit there. I think he's, like, really being treated like, wow, this is a real great stand-up guy, really good potential partner for Charity, is the way his edit was really done. So despite everything I just said, I think that, you know, I can actually see him going pretty far with Charity, unless, like, he has a big swerve heel turn. But so far, I do think actually she seems to like him, or anyways, the edit made it seem like they have a good connection.
I agree. And for Aaron's lack of vulnerability, I think what he did choose to share with her on their first one-on-one solidified him as a person that Charity would be interested by, because I just think by nature of her profession, that shows, like, how she organizes her values, and she really likes working with people or being with people that are working on themselves. So for him to, like, give that right amount of information does set him on a good path. And for him to make it very far, he would have to do something where it shows, like, I'm not putting on a front, I'm not doing any pretense, this is me. And if he serves that to her on a silver platter and she really feels connected to it, I do see him making it, like, very, very far.
Because Charity is a therapist, I wonder what it's like for her to interact with people, because I feel like it's becoming more, to your point, common for people to talk about their experiences with therapy, especially in the context of dating, because, you know, it's so important. It really helps people learn and unlearn the things that they need to in order to enter into relationships as their, I wouldn't say best selves, but as the most self-aware selves, and as, you know, the type of partner that can really navigate the complexities of being in a relationship, and therapy really supports that. And so it's great that people are talking about it so much, but I'm very curious for Charity, like, as a therapist, you know, when Aaron B brought up, like, I went to therapy, wow, I'm so brave for it. In my head, I was kind of like, well, Charity is literally a therapist. It's not that brave to her, right? Because, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's like literally like the barrier for entry to be considered as a partner for Charity. It's like minimum therapy.
So I did have that thought of, like, is it so impressive for Charity that he went to therapy? I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, she did seem to be happy that he opened up. And he even said this thing of, like, it's being open with you is really easy. It's been really hard for me in the past. I've never been this open with someone. And in my head, I was just kind of thinking, well, one, your date wasn't that connective so far. So I don't know why. I was a little bit like, I don't know why like nothing that they had set up in their conversations had set it up to be like, this is a great, safe and connective space to talk. So part of me was a little bit like, I don't know why he would randomly feel so open with her, but then I was like, well, she's literally a therapist, like maybe she just gives off that energy. And then that just made me think like, well, if he's never been open in a relationship before, like does he have any real experience in a healthy relationship? Is he he shared kind of like some bare minimum information about himself and then was like, wow, I've never been so open before. And so I was like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it just made me think, like is Charity gonna end up having to like be a therapist for this guy if they were to be in a relationship? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
Because Charity is so advanced in this regard. Like she's so advanced in the process of being emotionally open and in the process of being, doing that inner work. It's something that's so normal for her versus for Aaron B. He's still kind of in the place of like, isn't it brave that I did this? Like I was kind of like, maybe they're on different levels to some extent.
I was thinking about like Charity's backstory. She has traditionally been with men that have not appreciated her. I think the last person was like marked by a lot of infidelity. So she is also struggling with that like level of trust. And I hope that like in this season, she's able to choose a partner that can really elevate her versus just kind of like heal and learn from. And I think Aaron B might be a little bit of that because it's like...
That's such a good point.
And if that's what he's going to offer, then like I don't want that for her. But I do think that for both of them, it's like a really good opportunity for us to see like if Charity's really able to see him for what the connection is and be like, wow, like he could be an amazing partner. He could be a great boyfriend at one point of my life, but for a husband, maybe this is not what I'm looking for. So there's like this new level of discernment that I'm excited to see Charity apply because she's a therapist. I don't think there's ever been a lead that has worked in the mental health profession. So I'm very curious about like her choices this season.
It's so good to be with a partner who challenges you and who pulls you forward. And I don't really get the sense that Aaron is in a place where he's able to challenge Charity or like pull Charity forward. Like Charity does really seem just like in a more in a further place in her journey of self-discovery maybe than Aaron is. And so yeah, I agree that I would kind of want a different type of partner for her, someone who has something new to offer her, and I just don't know that Aaron B does just yet.
Great point. Yeah, so they would be a very validating relationship for each other. It's not going to be super growth oriented, but I'm curious what you guys think. Like, do you like Aaron B and Charity together? Do you think that our theory is correct? Do you think we're reading too much into it? Let us know in the comments down below.
Us reading too much into a scene in The Bachelor?
Us analyzing it too much? That can't be
No
us.
way. We would never. Okay, so let's get into the next date, which was a group date. This was a very classic, like, beach, dodgeball type of date. I can't say that I ever really enjoy these, like, forced violence type of dates. Okay, but what I will say about this one is it actually, for some reason, something about this date felt a little different. It wasn't the typical, like, I'm gonna beat you up, and there wasn't actually this kind of targeted aggression between the men. It actually felt like friendly fire in a lot of ways. No, not friendly fire. That's not the right word. It felt like friendly competition. That's what I'm trying to say. It felt like friendly competition in the sense of they were all like really into it and no one was being like a sore loser. No one was being overly like aggressive and mean. They were just kind of like, let's play dodgeball. And I kind of actually really enjoyed watching it. I mean, I feel like some of these guys, like Xavier was a fucking like wet dream in this. Like he was like so good. I was like, holy shit. Like he was really like just, I don't know, he was just giving off the vibe. I'm not even the type of person who likes like overly athletic men. I'm not really into like, look at him like pumping iron. I'm so hot for him. Like I don't usually like that kind of stuff, but watching Xavier play this game of dodgeball, I was like, okay, feeling a little something something.
He made his fact about him going to summer camp very like attractive, because it's a very like nerdy thing, I think, to go to camp and just like conquer dodgeball, but it really like it paid off. So like kudos to Xavier's parents for like putting him through that, because it definitely showed. I know we're gonna get to our front runners at the end, but he is by far like my favorite person for charity. Is he the person that knits, or is that not him?
Yeah,
he's the scientist knitter.
The scientist who knits.
Yes, I love that. I think there's so much, like, he's very dynamic as a person.
I kind of just think he's, like, super sexy. I mean, like, not to be super objectifying about it, but he has such a sexy energy, and, like, actually part of me is a little bit concerned that he has too much, almost, like, too much sexiness for a charity, not in terms of, like, who's hotter, but just in terms of, like, Charity is in such a mature, not that Xavier isn't mature, I just, for some reason, there's something about them that actually isn't clicking to me, because they just seem like they're kind of in different universes in a certain way. Like, she seems much more of a classy, like, traditional, like, academic type of girl. And he's someone who just seems, I mean, he's a scientist, so what am I talking about? He's also, like, very, like, academic, but, like, maybe I'm just getting a little, I think I need to.
You want him for yourself. Yeah. Bert and him are going to duke it out. Yeah, I do see what you're saying about Xavier, because I love the playfulness that he can imbue into the connection with Charity, because it just made me feel like that's the kind of person I want Charity to be with. Like, out of all of these guys who, they are admittedly great, but I don't see a lot of them really clicking of Charity outside of, like, the first butterflies. Like, I see him being someone that could be her match, just because I think, even though Charity is very classy, I think she is very sexy, but she can get down. Whereas Xavier just kind of exudes that, and I think he would even let her guards down even further, because he is
that's a good point.
Like, he is very attractive, and I think he's very attractive to her. So it was, I admittedly, so during this dodgeball, whenever these guys put on a Speedo, I typically fast forward, because I'm like, I don't want to see this. Like, this is it's just not, like, usually what I like to sink my teeth into when I watch these episodes. But I did watch the beginning. I watched the first round when he dominated it. So that says something, because I usually just, like, keep fast forwarding through it.
Have to just have a moment to appreciate Aaron S. and his great Yosef line.
He's getting a one-way ticket to Bachelor in Paradise.
So fucking funny. I died. I thought that was so hilarious. And also a little bit like, oh God, they're actually reading our tweets. Like, we got to be careful what we say, because they're reading these things. They're, like, watching. I was a little bit like, uh-oh.
For him to know the lore of the Bachelor show,
right?
I just think memes. It's so funny. Yes, like, when people can make a joke about it, when people can kind of break the fourth wall, I think that he probably understands and knows, like, I'm not going to be, like, the top 6. So I really kind of like that awareness that he has, because I don't see him and Charity being a match. But who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen them interact, so.
Ever. But that line has, like, he's one of my favorites right now.
I guess that's really all I want to say about that dodgeball.
Just about him.
That's kind of all.
Okay, I think that's a good recap. Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on. We don't need to talk more about it.
So that was the dodgeball date, but in the evening afterwards, the winning team plus the MVP, which was Adrian, got to go to the after party. And this was a pretty simple after party. Everyone got time with Charity. The person who really stuck out to me in this after party was John. So John got the group date rose in this after party, but the thing that I really liked about their conversation was John told us that he played basketball, I think in college or something like that, and he asked Charity if Charity ever played any sports, and she said just cheerleading, and he was like, that counts. He was like, I love, like, we'll have some, like, athletic kids, and I loved that reaction. We love a guy who gasses up women's sports. We love a guy who respects women's athletics. I was just kind of like, love that kind of, like, Charity was kind of like downplaying herself, and Jana was like, no, like, gas yourself up because that's cool. And that counts as an athletic, you know, it's not easy to be a cheerleader. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I was very much like, okay, Jana's the kind of guy who really respects women and doesn't like downplay the activities that women get into. And so I was really into that, actually. I thought it was a very, very attractive quality in his, and clearly Charity did too, because Charity gave him the rose. So that was the one kind of like standout, I would say, like romantic moment of that night.
I wasn't here last week, and by the way, you and Bert did an amazing job recapping that episode. I have a feeling that it's going to build and then plateau, and then there's other connections that are going to go super fast, and then he might be kind of left in the dust. I know, like, I love it.
Don't say that.
Is he half Asian, or is
what's
his ethnicity?
I think he said he's half Chinese, half white, is what he said in the first episode. He was the guy who brought the fortune cookie, and he was like, it's like me, a little Chinese and a little American. And so,
love that. Like, I just love the Asian diaspora on The Bachelor, because we rarely see it. So I'm rooting for him for, like, a personal bias. But, I mean, I would love for them to be together, and I think they have such a cute connection. And I think what is really cool is that you can really see Charity is so open to so many of the men. She is just very giddy, very excited to be the lead.
So the only other thing that happened in this evening portion of the date, and this also kind of takes us into the overall kind of storyline that was kind of happening, is there was a little bit of drama between Brayden and Adrian that was starting to unfold in this evening portion. It kind of started where, like, Brayden was dogging on Adrian a little bit. He was like, I don't know why you got the MVP award. Like, there were other people on your team who did better. It was like a little bit weird and random that Brayden was questioning Adrian. I don't know. It just was like very strange.
Outside of like just doing well in the game, I just feel like it was a producer. Like, the producers were like, Adrian hates Brayden. Let's get him on this like, and let's get him on this date so he can talk like badly about Brayden, because Adrian just not vibing with Brayden. And I think Adrian is a person that would bring it up, especially because he keeps saying all of these things about him being more mature. He's taking it very seriously. Brayden, he just seems like someone that is constantly extroverting his thoughts, and he is constantly like putting his foot in his mouth. Like, he's just not editing himself as he speaks. Maybe that's okay in regular life to an extent, but on camera, when everything is being spliced up, when you just have one sentence that in a scene where everybody can judge you off of that, and you know, I'm sure that he's like just saying a lot of very careless things to people in the house that are making them see Brayden differently. He's just not reading well. And I was kind of like, last week, I just thought, I like his enthusiasm. I love how giddy he is around Charity. I love that Charity is so, you know, like, I love that she feels so confirmed or affirmed as the Bachelorette. But this episode, I just thought, like, whoa, his energy is just like very off to me.
Yeah, I did agree that Brayden was really starting to come off poorly. In the first episode, I thought he was fine, just seemed giddy about the kiss. But in this episode, he was just starting to come off pretty poorly. I can't tell if it's just editing is just trying to make him seem like he's obnoxious, or maybe he is obnoxious. I'll say two things. One, I think maybe he's getting a little bit of a tough edit, in part, like you're saying, because he talks so much, so he says so much, and so it's easy for production to kind of make that look super, like, he's so arrogant, like he's so obnoxious, like, oh my god, look at the way he like is laughing about XYZ thing all the time. Like, I think it's pretty easy to take someone who's just like can't stop talking and, you know, just like kind of frame him in this negative light. And also because he's young, he has that like frat boy energy. I do think it's like very easy to frame him in that negative light. There are some moments where they're in a group situation and like a date card is read and he like reacts and just like makes like some kind of like quip or joke, and the edit kind of makes it look like, oh my god, why is he talking so much, or why is he being so obnoxious? But in my head, I'm like, I don't know, when you're in a group, there's always like that one like extrovert who always makes a joke about everything, and it's not inherently wrong. Not that I'm a fan of Brayden. This sounds like a big Brayden defense, but I do think there are some moments where I'm a lot more like, it's fine. I don't like extroverts, so it's easy for me to be like, every time he talks. But being an extrovert doesn't make you a bad person. So it's like, I do think that it's okay for him to be as, whatever, have that kind of energy of just blabbing and laughing all the time. I think it's all fine. The moments that I don't like about him, though, are the moments where he's kind of randomly getting on people's grill. Like, he was getting on Adrian's grill, and he was kind of like questioning Adrian being the MVP. And Adrian even points out, like, all of my teammates were like chanting MVP to me like during the game, so it makes sense that I would be the MVP. So don't question my accomplishments. And I was kind of with him on that. I was like, why are you randomly questioning Adrian's accomplishments in this game? It did feel like a little bit, I don't know, it just seemed inappropriate, frankly, to me. And the other moments where he is, we'll get to the pool party barbecue thing where he's like questioning Charity. Like, sometimes he like kind of takes this like swerve where he'll be heavily critical of people and kind of like sit on a high horse a little bit. I feel a little self-conscious because I do this all the time. I'm always like, I take a micro action of someone and I get really critical. So I'm kind of a little bit self-conscious as I say this, but Brayden seemed to be doing quite a lot of this throughout this episode. And those were the moments that were starting to bother me more so than his general extroversion, which, you know, it's okay. It's okay to be extroverted, despite what us introverts might think. It is okay to be extroverted.
It is okay to be extroverted, but I think what bothers me about his extroversion is it's coupled by main character energy, and that just feels, especially like at the beginning of the season, like, this is a TV show they're on. They are being presented in certain ways by production, and it's not just a game for Charity. It's also like a social game in the house. It's like, how do you get along with other people? It says a lot about how you get along with like your friendships or your family or like your working relationships in your real life. That is kind of what's bothering me a little bit about Brayden, is that he doesn't really understand how he's being he doesn't understand how to present himself. And I think by that nature, that very attribute would inevitably rule him out of like Charity's dating pool, because she is someone that is so aware of herself, not in a self-conscious way, but just aware of how she's coming across. Like, she has really good awareness of her body.
Yeah,
exactly. And like what she says, and just making people feel welcome and being self-deprecating in the right amounts. And Brayden, to me, feels like, well, if I'm saying this thing and I'm being honest, then I'm being honest. And it's like, yes, but the inability to have like an elegance to how you present yourself, that is a red flag or not a red flag, a beige flag for someone like Charity, who would not be as interested later on, like, what is he going to be like at family parties, especially because like in the first episode, her brother was pointed out Brayden, he says things that could be inappropriate. How is he going to be like when they go to parties with her friends? Is he just going to say something because he's just being Brayden and he's an extrovert? That's what I see about him that I'm already not liking. And that's not even the pool party or like when he was calling Charity classless. Like, we didn't even get into that yet. Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, Brayden, learn how to edit yourself. Like, learn that there's some thoughts that are best inside of your head. Let it be fleeting. Let it pass. You don't need to share everything with everybody all the time. That's just my opinion.
No. I totally hear what you're saying. It's a tough balance because, like, literally earlier in this episode, we were complimenting Brayden and his ability to just like be unfiltered as opposed to Aaron B, who's like so manufactured. And I guess it's like, you got to find that balance of like being yourself and not just like putting on a front, but also being able to recognize how what you say and how you behave impacts other people. It's like that balance of both of these two things. It's like, you do want to be yourself. You do want to be honest. You want to be able to be you want to be able to like share your true thoughts and feelings about things as they're happening instead of being so manufactured and just saying the right thing that you think will make other people like you. But at the same time, you also don't want to go all the way in the other direction where you're just like blabbing every single thought that crosses your mind, even when some of those thoughts are clearly offensive or hurtful or will just bother the people around you, right? And so it's like you got to find this like balance of like being able to be yourself but also exist in a society.
Yes, exactly. You know? And they represent both of these polarities, which is very much like life. And there is, I mean, I am rooting for both of them in whatever way, like whether Brayden makes it far in this season, whether he makes it far like in Bachelor in Paradise, because you know, like who knows where he's gonna end up, but I hope that
he's ending up on Bachelor in Paradise, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Guy, come on.
He's a bib dude. He's a bib dude for sure. And yeah. I absolutely see him just being very popular with the ladies. And this is like another thing too. It's he is gonna kill it on Paradise. Is he gonna kill it on Charity Season, where it's truly about finding a husband? I don't know. He's just like figuring himself out, and he's doing it underneath the microscope of a show with men that are like in their late 20s, early 30s that are kind of like looking at Brayden as this like young little kid. That's definitely not helping his perception either. Okay,
I have to say one thing though about Adrian before we move on, which is that I do think it was weird that Adrian was like, listen, some of these guys, they like are treating this like spring break. They're just like jumping around in the pool. I'm like, they have nothing to do all day. One guy is on a date of the 19 men and the rest of them just have to sit there all day. It's okay for some of the guys to use the pool. It's okay that people want to have fun while they have a day off because the girl that they're dating is not here. I don't know what Adrian wanted Brayden to do, just sit there and be like, oh, I miss Charity. I miss Charity. I miss Charity. Like, I don't know what Adrian wanted from Brayden in that moment, but I'm like, it's kind of okay for you to, like, dive around in the pool on your day off. So I did think that that was, like, a kind of a weird take from Adrian. And then he, like, placed that seed in Charity's head that these guys are, like, here for spring break. I'm like, I don't know. People having fun. Again, it doesn't make people bad people. Like, it's okay for people to have fun in the privacy of their home when, like, there's nothing else to do. I did think that was, like, kind of a weird take from Adrian and, like, a weird reason to be mad at Brayden. Now, other things that Brayden has done since then, I think are very valid reasons to be upset with Brayden. But that in particular, the whole spring break thing, I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what Adrian has against fun, but it's strange to me.
Mm-hmm. And it just was very clear when I was watching the episode of, like, I understand that Adrian left his daughter behind to go on the season, and he has a lot more expectations than other men might have. And he needs to, like, I think that for him to be like, I'm spending time away from my daughter, this now means that every interaction I have with Charity is very loaded because this has to be worth it for me to leave my daughter behind. I absolutely understand that. But now he's just projecting. And in this projection, it is actually distancing himself from Charity because there's always someone like this every season where they take it upon themselves to get on their white knight and then, you know, like they get on the horse and they go to the lead and they're like, people are here for the wrong reasons. And those people never make it far. If you had a connection of Charity, then you'd be focused on the connection. But because I can tell that, you know, like Adrian's kind of entering the interaction of this has to mean more than what it can mean right now. And it's just way too soon for it to be this weighted, to be this loaded. So then he is like, how can I get closer to her? I can get closer to her by like stepping on Brayden's back to like move towards Charity. And it doesn't work. It shows to me, whoa, your connection to Charity is so mid that you have to throw Brayden under the bus. Maybe he deserved an element of that, but it's still so early on. Brayden is just, like we were saying, he doesn't know how to edit himself. He's not being malicious. All of these guys are here for Charity. They're also allowed to have fun. But Adrian is so single track because of his personal projection, that it's like very rigid, and it's also coming off like really judgmental at this point.
I think something that people forget is that just because you don't like someone doesn't mean that they're a bad person, doesn't mean that they deserve less, doesn't mean that you need to go like shit talk them, doesn't mean that you have to go be mean to them. It's okay to not like someone. You can still be nice to people that you don't like as long as they're not doing anything bad. Like, Brayden is annoying. It's okay to not like him, but at that point he hadn't done anything bad, so it was just kind of weird for Adrian to just like have this beef with Brayden over nothing. I would say this is a skill we are all called to do as human beings who exist in a society, which is you need to learn how to be chill with people that you don't like, who are not doing anything wrong. No, when people are crossing you or crossing people you love, or, you know, being actually like shitty to others, that's a different story. You know, there's a different treatment that, you know, you might need to have with people who are like that in your life. But people who are just, you know, like I said, like, I'm an introvert, I don't like extroverts, they annoy me. Like, that doesn't make them bad people. We don't need to, like, it's okay for those people to exist in the universe. I like to, you know, stay in, spend my Friday nights on the couch. Doesn't make people who go out and drink bad people. And I can't be mean to those people just because I don't like to be around them, right? And I think that Adrian has lost this core truth, which is that it's okay for people to be different. Like, I think he, like, lost sight of that. And he has, like, targeted Brayden much more early than I would say is deserving. Now, later on, I like I said, I do think Brayden goes on to do some pretty shitty things. And so I do think he's starting to get on my bad list. But at least at the time that this beef was starting, I was like, what are you doing, Adrian? This is it's too much.
It's like he already sees him as like this adversary, and like Brayden is literally just like doing backflips in the pool. Like, he is completely unaware of Adrian's like hatred towards him. Like, you know, like the anime like Death Note, he just has like Brayden on top of the list, and Brayden has like no clue. He's eating scrambled eggs. He's just like making his avocado like smash, like just unaware that he's attracting this much hatred. With Adrian, with Brayden, do you feel like this confrontation makes sense this early on? Do you see why, like, do you feel like Adrian was valid to bring up his concerns to Charity this early on? Let us know in the comments down below.
And let us know what you think about Brayden and overall how his kind of character arc is developing. Are we into Brayden? Are we annoyed by Brayden? Do we think he's doing things that are problematic in the house, or do we think that the edit is just putting him in a bad light? What do we think about Brayden? I'm so far, I'm a little bit kind of like Aaron B. Actually, I'm like withholding my full fury just yet, because I'm not sure. I think he's being clumsy, to your point, Julie, but I'm not sure yet what I think about him. So people, let us know down below. Give us your honest thoughts. While also, as always, remembering that these are real people who exist in the universe, and, you know, let's be thoughtful as we give our commentary. So, yeah, leave some thoughts down below. So the next group date, the second group date of the week, it was a bunch of guys who, frankly, I don't feel like I have seen before. I was like, who are these people? It was like all the main guys that we're all talking about and excited about were on the first group date. And this group date, I think I recognized like one person, which was Joey, who, by the way, won the group date. It was like a kissing themed date. They all were asked questions. Oh, Gabby and Rachel were there looking so cute. I love those two so much. It was so made me so happy to see them. But they just asked a bunch of questions related to kissing, and then Charity picked the guy whose answer she liked the best, which was Joey. They made out for 4.5 minutes. All the other guys had to watch them make out. And then Joey got a one-on-one as like a prize for winning the competition. And Joey is someone who I have a feeling will go far, actually. I kind of think that he is giving a little bit of frontrunner energy, especially after this scene. I'm not like, I don't have any real feelings about him still after this. I didn't have any feelings about him after the first episode. And in this episode, I mean, he seemed sweet. He seemed nice. Him and Charity, I thought, had some pretty good chemistry. They're both equally kind of like dorky, so I kind of feel like that is that puts them in the same kind of like place, like energetically. I liked when he opened up about his parents' divorce and telling this story of a different type of family unit where they divorced because his dad came out as, I think, gay, and they still co-parented with a lot of love to Joey, and Joey's now very close with his dad. It was a beautiful story, so I did like all of those parts of it. I just didn't really feel like I got that much from like about Joey's personality, so I still feel pretty unsure about him. But what did you think about it, Julie?
They have some chemistry, but I have a feeling that she's going to develop a lot of other really beautiful connections as well. But it's such a good start for her to just know that there's men that are into her that she's into as well.
Let us know down below what you all thought about Joey. Is anyone excited about him? I don't think I've heard anyone really talking about Joey being like, oh, I'm so excited about Joey, and Joey's really giving me the vibe for Charity. But let us know down below if you're feeling him. So the last thing that happened in the episode was the rose ceremony. Usually there's a cocktail party beforehand, but in this case they had a barbecue beforehand, which was super cute. I love it when they do like a little barbecue pool party type thing in place of a rose or in place of a cocktail party, because it's always just like a good vibe, I feel like. So they had a cute little barbecue. All the guys got time with Charity. The main kind of thing that happened during this was there was just more Brayden and Adrian drama. Brayden was upset after the kissing date. He had gotten upset about the fact that Charity made out with Joey in front of all the other guys, and he called her classless. He said that it made him question her character for her to do that. It was a very strange reaction. Like, I get being jealous, I get being upset. It's upsetting, of course, if a girl you like, having to watch her make out with other people, if you're monogamous, like, I get it, like, it's upsetting. But he had like a weird reaction of like, and therefore she's a bad person, and that was very strange. So he kind of was like, I'm packing my bags if I don't hear the right things from her. I don't know, it was like a very weird thing. And so he talked to her about it. They seemed to like get onto the same page, and I don't know, she didn't really react very much. I felt like she was just like, I appreciate you telling me this, and I like that you don't hold back your thoughts. And then they kissed and made up. But then what happened was like Adrian came afterwards, and Adrian told her more of the specific things that Brayden had said about her, and that's what upset Charity.
To me, it kind of felt like a continuation of what we were talking about Brayden earlier. He is just saying things that he feels in the moment, but that's the thing. Feelings are transient. They're information about what you're feeling with the situation of the people around you. It doesn't necessarily mean this is like the reality of what's really going on. And he, I don't know, like, for him to get upset at Charity, like, she didn't make the date. She didn't tell, she wasn't like, I'm going to break the record and I'm going to have this group of men watch me kiss the person I choose to be. No, like, she had no part in that. She also didn't choose doing the one-on-one date. That was something that came after. So, like, it was very much out of her control. I think she was able to roll off the punches. That shows who she is. I just think that he's thinking, I am being enthusiastic. I am showing that I really like Charity, but he is not showing an ability to really be graceful and adaptable and flexible for Charity in this season. And this is like another thing, like, Charity has chosen this show as a space to like find her partner, and she's looking for someone that is also going to dominate this space, just like she did last season, and that's why she was chosen to be the lead. So she wants someone that has that like that has that in common with the personality of just being able to like roll with the punches, be with the lead, have friends in the house. It's not a tall order, but Brayden is kind of failing on some of those marks. Like, he's just not measuring up. He's like rubbing the men the wrong way because he's not thinking about the fact that like this is a show to make friends and to find love at the same time and to have an experience and for everybody else to have an experience. He's very much like, I want to get all of the roses moving forward. Why can't Charity just like choose me? And like then we could ride off in the sunset. It's very Dale and Claire, and we saw how that ended up. Like, Claire needed to like develop into her season, but because she was so blinded by Dale, she wasn't able to have that opportunity. Brayden is kind of displaying some selfishness. I don't want these men to have an opportunity of Charity. I want to get the rose. I don't want Charity to have this opportunity. You need to have a little bit of like compassion and empathy and consideration for the other people in the house. And I've been very up and down of my feelings for this person since the first episode. I was very forgiving with him and his enthusiasm. In this episode, okay, he's not playing the best social game, but then for him to call her classless, he's just not cut out for this show with Charity. Will he be an amazing partner to someone else? Yes. Will he be great on BIP? Yes. He's not good for this particular show. Like, this format is not working for him. He is not able to like adapt in this format very well. So I don't know, like, I just think that he was saying things that he didn't mean. He's rubbing people the wrong way. It's going to be very confrontational for him moving forward, I think, with the men in the house. This man is just giving a lot of flags already, and it's not the worst thing in the world. I just think it's not good for Charity, but that's my opinion. What do you think?
I completely agree that Brayden has already shown that he's not a good match for Charity. I just think that it'll probably take a while. I mean, she ended up keeping him. So we had the rose ceremony. She kept both Adrian and Brayden. Brayden got the last rose, so it's always like the person who gets the last rose, you can tell they're a little bit on the chopping block. And so he got the last rose, and it just seems like she's going to keep him around because he got her first impression rose, and because she already has had that initial spark with him. I kind of feel like it's just going to take a while for her to be ready to release him, because I think she has in her head that she already really likes him and wants him to be kind of someone who she gets to get to know over the course of her seasons. He'll have to do something really bad for her to be willing to, let him leave. So I just kind of think that we're going to have more Brayden up until the point that he like snaps essentially and forces her hand to send him home. But for now, I kind of think that we're going to be stuck with him.
I think so. He's definitely the villain of the season right now. And it's not, and this is like another thing I want to state, is that he's not a bad person, and his actions aren't even that, it's not even the worst thing in the world to like act the way he's acting. It's just not, it's just showing that he's clashing so much with the format and the show and the men, and of Charity in some respects, her brother. It's like, it just makes so much sense that he is going to he's on the nice, he's going to be on the chopping block and he'll be off soon. But for him to call her classless, that was a slap in the face. I just think that was such an insult to her. Like, she didn't control those conditions, and then for him to insult her because of that, it was kind of jarring. Like, he can't always excuse his mouth and him being authentic in the moment and continue to say stuff like that.
I agree. I completely agree. By the way, if you are enjoying this conversation so far, make sure you hit that like button on this video. It really helps us out a lot. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you do. We do this every week, and we are always doing these kinds of deep dives into every scene of every episode of The Bachelorette. So you should definitely be following along.
So now let's get on to how we think Charity is doing this season so far and our predictions for how she is going to do the rest of her season. I am just loving seeing someone like Charity, who is so thoughtful, so sophisticated, so mature, just own this role. It's really cool to see her be so excited, for the men to be so excited, and for her to really embrace this experience completely. She's very even about it, which I also really like. I do see her getting engaged. I see her really being a lot more decisive about the men moving forward as well. I just kind of see her cutting people if they're not meeting the mark. It's a little bit of Zach's energy, but maybe not as intense as Zach, when he was literally sending any girl home that had any kind of emotions. As soon as they would cry, he was you need to go. But I do think that by her being on his season, there is an element of her being if I'm not feeling this guy, then I'm just gonna send him home. And I think she's gonna be more confident to have that happen as long like after she has an opportunity to like really make these connections and see which guys are for her and which guys are not. So I'm loving it so far. I think the season's going to be really cool to watch, especially because it's just going to like match so nicely with the way that we view the show. Like I think Charity will kind of match that a little bit because of the way that she's going to be thinking about things, and her actions will demonstrate a lot of maturity that's going to be really fun for us to dig into.
Her maturity, her intelligence, it's just really making her into someone that's just like really engaging to watch, and it's like interesting to watch how she makes her decisions and how she decides on, you know, which guys to keep and which guys to go, how she decides how to navigate the drama. I think it's like really interesting to watch her, and so I really love her as the Bachelorette. I think the thing I like the least about her, the only thing I don't like about her is just how much she gasses up Zach. I'm like, what are you doing, Charity? Yeah. She's like, oh, he taught me that men are great. I'm like, Zach? Really, Charity? Like, that's the only thing about her that I'm like, that's the only thing that makes me question her, because I'm a little bit like, we're talking about Zach? But anyways, it's fine. Other than that, I'm like all here for it.
Yeah, me too. I think that we're going to be in for like a really fun season, and I'm already seeing a lot of guys that are going to be great for her, but my standout so far for her is probably, it's still, I said this on our Instagram, but I still think it's Xavier, it's John, and yeah, like Xavier and John really stood out to me this episode, like in terms of the people that she could be great with.
The other person who I think you mentioned in the story, by the way, if you're not following us on Instagram, you should. We are just starting to kind of get active on there, so make sure you find us there. Give us a follow. The other person you mentioned was Dotun, and I think Dotun is he kind of had a good one-on-one moment with Charity at some point on this episode. I can't remember when it was. Maybe it was during the barbecue or something, but I feel like, and they had like a good kiss. They felt very, very much like aligned. I actually really liked watching them together. I think that he is a really interesting person with a very kind of, he has an equally mature energy to him, and Bert brought this up. He has this really awesome, like, kind of quiet sort of confidence that I really like about him. He's the kind of guy who, in comparison to Aaron B., who I feel like doesn't quite know himself fully in a certain way, Dotun is someone who just seems so, like, solid, and I think that security and that core solidness is something that I think Charity would really benefit from in a partner. And to me, he's the kind of guy we were talking about, you know, someone who will like pull Charity forward. I could kind of see Dotun being someone like that. We don't know too much about him just yet, but I do think that he has this, this security that I think will help Charity grow and kind of grow into her own ability to form secure attachments, which is something that she's talked about. It's like very hard for her. It's very fraught. And so I sort of like him even more than I did in the first episode. And I already liked him in the first episode. He's rising the ranks for me in terms of someone who I could see being a front runner. But yeah.
Who else are you liking this season so far?
Definitely John and Xavier too. I completely agree. They are definitely I think they're my top two personal favorite people on the season. Like, I really like them a lot. I sort of think John is a better fit for Charity in a certain way, for the same reasons that I stated before about Xavier. But I mean, I love Xavier. I just, something about them, they in a certain way feel like they're from different like universes. But I think John feels like such a good match. Now I kind of think Aaron B. could be a front runner. I don't love that, but it just seems like he's getting that kind of treatment or that kind of edit. So that just makes me think that he could make it pretty far. And then Joey also, because of previews and because that date just seemed to go pretty well. I don't personally love him. I just think that it just feels like I could see him really getting far just based on the previews and the state and the way his edit is going. So those would be the people who are standing out to me. Yeah. Did we miss anyone?
I kind of liked Sean. Not for Charity, but I just thought he was really funny. It was, Sean, I mean, he's not really, I'll put his picture up here, but he was, looks like he's British, but he's not British, and he just has the swoopy
he looks
hair.
Like Draco Malfoy.
Yes, yeah.
yes.
He just made like the funniest comment after Joey was talking about his date. He was like, "Wow, you've kissed Charity longer than I've talked to her," and it just made everybody in the house laugh. And I just loved his energy. Like, that's the perfect energy, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, not in a manufactured way. It's not like he's doing it to be casual. He was just riffing with everybody in the house. He was being good-natured. He was just kind of like talking about his standing in the house, but not being mopey and not being down about it, and just like really bonding with people. And then he used that as a moment to be closer to Charity later on. And then Charity made a comment of like, "Whoa, I thought he was really shy," but he's like really putting himself out there. I think the way that he's doing it is just like very him. Like, I think his personality is just great. I don't know if he'll make it very far, but I hope I see him on the beach. If you've made it this far in the video, it's good to have you here. Hello, hi, over here.
Hi, hey.
Please subscribe if you haven't done it yet, and watch the first video if you don't know some of the things that we're talking about of like Brayden and how our feelings about him are kind of developing. We'll be back next week for episode 3 of Charity season, and we'll see you guys then. Bye.
Bye.